Hello, my name is Latonian, and today is September 30, 2025. I'm going to read off of a paper that I had created. I did this prior, but I had added some stuff to it, and also I didn't like how small the words were. So this time, let's see if I can expand things. Make it a little bigger. I think that's better. Okay, so I've done this interview like long time ago, and I'm just revamping it. I've been doing that with some other stuff in my past, just revamping some stuff, especially if I have new information. So this is to my right, or to your right as well, a picture of Karelle, Dr. Karelle A. Hall, and this was about her language journey. I once again did the interview in the past, so it was like September 22nd, 2021, and I presented it on my past channel, Nanticoke Language, on October 14, 2021. And then this video is just revisiting that now in 2025, because there's some updated information. And although I took down my channel a long time ago for personal reasons outside of anything I'm sharing today, I'm bringing it back because I have the intentions to. I have other things that are related to this, so I'm bringing it back. So once again, you have Dr. Karelle A. Hall, and this is her language journey, priorly addressed as Karelle Hall, on September 22nd, 2021, presented on Nanticoke Language channel on October 14, 2021. And then this is just the revisited language journey with updates in 2025. About Dr. Karelle A. Hall. Dr. Karelle A. Hall was raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Karelle, or Nemise meaning my older sister or my older female cousin in this case. She's not my sister, so it's the same term to use for older female cousin. So Nemise, of the Turtle Clan, is enrolled in the Nanticoke Indian tribe of Delaware. Karelle is of the Turtle Clan from the Nanticoke Lenape community of New Jersey, yet she is enrolled in the Nanticoke Indian tribe of Millsboro, Delaware. Although she was raised in Ohio, she moved back to the east and got reconnected with her native heritage from her mother's side, Mosley. She identifies as a Native woman and a Black woman, a part of the African American community from her father's side, Hall. She had ancestors and relatives who experienced migration into Canada, and she started her language journey in 2017. She also learned amongst the Maori some cultural language revitalization and techniques. Karelle loves working with children, and she enjoys the title of auntie. And then this is just an image of myself back then, way back when, in 2018. This is me, the interviewer, Latonian Dunson, Latonian J. Dunson. Okay. So this is just the opening navigation. I'm just going to go briefly over what was discussed in the interview and some of the questions that I did ask briefly. So we have Nanticoke, where are you from? Wolf Clan social structure, and then we discussed some comparisons between Karelle herself and Gladys Tentacousin. And lastly, what kind of legacies you want to leave behind? Once spoken, it can't be unspoken. Karelle's footprints. Karelle's professor back in 2017 had a great influence on her, in her chosen field of study from 2011 to 2017. She shares her experiences with her professor as we changed the subject matter rather quickly. In 2021, when I was interviewing Karelle, she disclosed that she was going to school for linguistic anthropology. Karelle found a Lenape talking dictionary and tried learning from that before she met Keith Cunningham. She was a Dartmouth College student from 2017 to 2022, and she holds multiple identities at once. She studied Nanticoke Language materials from Keith Cunningham, then me, Latonian. Then she branched out to others, such as Muncie Language Lessons Online. Her search for her language and finding me via Nanticoke Language was in her mind. She thought there had to be more. The peak of her curiosity came around the time she met Keith Cunningham, a time still where no one could truly understand the written text left on the different Nanticoke vocabularies. She met him as he was teaching the tribe, the Nanticoke Indian Tribe of Delaware, a course of his own, the Nanticoke Language Lessons. Keith Cunningham is the linguist who was sought out on behalf of the tribe by the tribe's museum coordinator, Sterling Street. Raggy Rain was someone who approached Karelle about creating a children's book, and that project is now in completion. So this is what it looks like. Once it has been spoken, it cannot be unspoken. And it was written by Keith Cunningham, Karelle Hall, and Raggy Rain. And then it says the illustrations was by Paige McNatt. So that's their project that's now in completion. So as she was being introduced to her language, she learned that certain cultural idioms remained in her family and community, like people never saying goodbye, only see you again or later. Also the influences of seeing mortal and pestles. And we have Marilyn Ranville, Anishinaabe of Saking First Nation, and she was the first native to come forward who shares a cognate language with Nanticoke and had given the tribe language lessons. But she encouraged the tribe to find another group who more closely shares cognates in the language outside of Anishinaabe-Moan. So then Muncie, a Delaware Lenape group, is now respectfully sought out, and she is taking courses to learn Muncie in order to better understand Nanticoke cognates. Cognates are root words that shares the same origins. Keep in mind, she didn't attend the classes by Ranville, only Keith. The state of the language around 2017 was still in progress. People were happy to receive help to understand Nanticoke, but Karelle knew there had to be more. She had hoped that someone else was out there with more information, and so she searched for it and found this channel, Nanticoke Language. We met briefly, Karelle and myself, Latonian. In a short period of time after our first contact, I shared with her what I have been able to reconstruct of the language, and she kept those notes from those interactions. We also were able to translate her given native name back into the language. As she is a jingle dress dancer, a chosen healer, her dress and dance reflect her spiritual name. A cycle, a circle. So that just means a loop, meaning I'm going to repeat things and go back to things. So I, Latonian, started my channel, Nanticoke Language, in 2017. I came back from Mexico, a foreign land, in 2018. That is the year I met Karelle. From 2011 to 2017, Karelle had no idea of my existence, nor I of hers. If you say your identity, it depends on who's asking you. We, Karelle and I, Latonian, met each other in the fall season. We were strangers until I told her my native surnames, including the name of my father. Upon disclosing my father's surname, she was able to recognize that I was not just a regular person sharing language insights, but a woman of Nanticoke descent. Wright is my father's surname, Anthony Wilson Wright. I also had my paternal third great grandparents re-imaged on my channel, Emily C. Johnson and David W. Wright. I recall that I called Karelle in Nanticoke a Jibkutskoy. She disclosed to me that she would learn things about our shared heritage language from others, but she kept sensing more information was out there. She mentions how she kept continuing to search for people with knowledge of the language because her spirit knew that there had to be more. Since she at the time was a linguistic anthropologist, I asked her this: what is the difference between dead and sleeping languages, and the contents of the language or any features of it? She discusses that the language has euphemisms, metaphors, idioms, etc. Number one, an idiom is to make one's own speech or private speech. It's a natural dialect formed by a person or a group of people. Number two, metaphor, a word or a phrase applied to an object or action which is abstract, symbolic, or representative of something else to transfer meaning. And number three, euphemism. A euphemism is a word or phrase used to downplay an offensive, unpleasant, or embarrassing expression. Also can be used as amusement. We have speak well versus eloquent. So eloquent would be the euphemism over speak well. Instead of saying speak well, say eloquent. The next subject we discussed was disclosing mindsets, looking at the vocabularies as obsolete or fragmented. I start off with myself. Latonian. Why continue to pursue a language that others consider to be fragmented and obsolete? What sets you apart from others in your language journey? The mindset, having a different view of what the possible outcomes of the language could be if I continue to learn and seek out others. Karelle. What made Karelle continue to practice the language was that she was used to speaking multiple languages, and from her background, she spoke sign language since her childhood. She had a grandfather who was from the deaf community. Her mother wrote about him in her book titled Paris in America, a deaf Nanticoke shoemaker, and his daughter, Clara Jean Mosley Hall, with Gail Williamson. It was her time spent among the Maori that she knew what it takes to bring forth a language and its culture. And since Nanticoke, is her own language and culture, of course she is more passionate. She also admits that learning Nanticoke can be daunting. Feelings such as I'm never going to get this. The feelings are not always positive, but she overcomes these emotions once the results of her continuation start to appear. People have told our nation, Nanticoke, that we are fragmented. How can that be true, objectively speaking, when the beginning and the end meets in the same place? So, if you went there and you took classes there, Keith's courses, it was something innately telling you that more is out there. That is because there is more to it. Myself, Latonian. She, Karelle, like myself, did not possess the mindset of our language as obsolete. She mentioned that it may be different now, how we were speaking, and that is due to different mindsets. Of course, the language now is different because we are describing things differently. Spirituality, religion, and practices changes how you view and describe the world. Karelle. We are different people from our ancestors. They lived a different life. A life we seek to know and understand. It is important to understand that we project onto a word an emotion. Cultural differences, such as understanding phrases that are not cultural or commonly said, we must take into account or consideration when translating across cultures, which is why it is important to know the origins of phrases from another one, also from Karelle. In our Nanticoke language, we can say, God be with you, but it is strange, because a long time ago, we knew we were connected to everything, and we had cultural impressions on gratitude. Basically, what was known didn't need to be said. That is what made the saying strange. Karelle. So then we went into another topic on combating differences and anti-hatred. Knowledge eliminates hatred. How can you hate something you know a lot about unless you perform self-hate? So let's see. We move to another subject. And so I'm just going to go into why did Latonian want to interview Karelle. Initially, upon meeting Karelle as a stranger, she turned out to be of some distant relation. I was also learning about my third great grandparents, Emily Caroline Johnson and David W. Wright, and how they were able to get recognition as Native Americans in the state of Delaware. There was a woman who I saw a great deal of resemblance to in Karelle, who also helped our people get recognition in 1881. The name of the woman was Gladys Nanticoke, a Mohegan medicine woman. Karelle was generous with her time to allow me to explain the similarities I was seeing between the two women. I had realized that both women were in the field of anthropology and worked alongside a linguist. And this is the true reason I sought out an interview. Although Karelle stated that she was of the Turtle Clan, I was sensing that she had Wolf Clan influences. Gladys Nanticoke in comparison to Karelle Hall. Gladys was a medicine woman who was raised by people who could speak the language, but they did not speak it to her. Just like Gladys, Karelle went around to different communities of Native nations as an anthropologist to help revive her language and culture. I had several conversations with Karelle about the concept of Wilipamalsuwakan, the good life, or living a long good life. Living a long good life was a feature of Nanticoke culture that I was learning, and mentioned this to her as well. She was able to corroborate that it was important, at least in the Nanticoke culture, to speak good over your life, and that it was our culture to speak with prosperity. I added that what had happened to our Nanticoke nation was the attack on our minds, that in order to make a people feel obsolete or fragmented, you don't teach them how to speak good over themselves. Language removals and its devastation on the Nanticoke nation exists, including the empowering choice to revive the nation's language and make the people speak again. Opposite of Gladys Nanticoke, Karelle was born and raised away from her native community, only to join them as an adult. Being raised outside of the community, she had the opportunity to see the world beyond just the Nanticoke community. Within the developmental stages of her revitalization mindset, she would often hear negative talks about how the language is dying, and to herself say, "We have to save this." Following up on the Wolf Clan trails, Latonian noticed that the Wolf Clan is the most heavily documented clan on the east, and that gave her an insight on Gladys, a Mohegan Wolf Clan member. I keep wanting to say mother, so we'll just leave that. Wolf Clan member who was seen hanging around our people, Nanticoke. She, Latonian, learned that when you visit other tribes or nations, you always look for your clan and join them. And that was Latonian's hint. Medicine woman, anthropologist, and Wolf Clan. Latonian's subjective thoughts shared with Karelle. We descend from ancestors who possessed the power of the mind and had powerful medicines. Why make them obsolete? Basically, from childhood, if you tell people that they have no power, they are going to believe it. I made mention of Onondaga Wolf Clan traditions, origins of the Wolf Clan, to be humble and to be respectful of all nations and creations. I then changed the subject to revitalization, Karelle's path versus restoration, Gladys's path. And then we discussed some revitalizing concepts, moving forward from written documented vocabulary to actualizing the words and to speaking the language, understanding who our ancestors were who spoke those Nanticoke words. Due to the abstract nature of words, how we think about things changes how we use a word. Example, mahdemanto or mahjimanto, bad or not too good spirit, or a tricky spirit, which is a Nanticoke idiom. And then we went into some Wolf Clan names. Now, this is all going back into the book Medicine Trails. So if you read that book, then you can kind of understand why we're talking about these subjects. So Wolf Clan names. Homophones, we have words that sounds the same but are different in meaning, or looks the same but have different pronunciation. The description of bear and Nanticoke is a homophone. Either it could be to like to sleep or eat. Wolf, tome, toxit, wingeos, and bear in hibernation. We have likes to eat, likes to sleep, wingwipple. Then we have Nora Thompson Dean, a Wolf Clan member of Wanami from the Delaware tribe of Indians out there in Oklahoma, who knows of the Nanticoke medicine practices and the skeleton dance. We have Gladys Tantaquidgeon, a Wolf Clan member of Mohegan, who adopted some medicine practices of Nanticoke. Then we have the body of the Wolf Clan, Wanami and Mohegan, who adopted some practices from the Nanticoke as well. So some comparisons of Karelle Hall and Gladys Tantaquidgeon. In 2017, Karelle was in college and was initiated into the jingle dress healing dance style. Karelle does linguistic anthropology versus Gladys, who did cultural anthropology. What is the difference between the two studies? Linguistic anthropology versus cultural anthropology. One focus is the study of language development and usage, and the other is on the social structures of a culture and studying the evolvement of cultural practices. From Karelle's perspective on her field, she has been studying more the language use within the culture, such as how people are speaking and developing concepts within their cultures, versus Gladys, who focused more on what representations each culture gave and how she could use that to educate herself and others about how people live their lives versus speaking their language as well. Gladys set out to know, preserve, and protect the past. Karelle sets out to merge the past with the current cultural and political social changes. Latonian's perspectives shared with Karelle. We have the same language, but because we speak it differently, we say they are not us. Latonian me on natives from the Algonquian Algic ethnic groups. How can I separate who I am from my language? Fluent speakers don't know how to segregate that because to them they go together. And that is the heart of every Nanticoke in pursuit to know and to speak their heritage language. Wolf people. Wolf people are trailblazers. Pardon my English. Wolf people are trailblazers stepping out on the ledge. They are also innovators, trying out new things, learning lessons by actions. You learn the thing by doing the thing. And if you get hurt, you lick your wounds, and then you bounce back. Well, that didn't work. Let me try something else. The wolf mentality. Then we have Gladys found herself confronting analysis of her people by men whose understanding was severely limited. Mentioned in Medicine Trails, the book on Gladys Tantaquidgeon. How was Karelle able to cultivate the Nanticoke language when no one else knew about it in the community? She used her spiritual intuition of ask and receive. Medicine Trail, The Life and Lessons of Gladys Tantaquidgeon, is the book I read and used as a comparison during the interview with Karelle. Images of Gladys with Chief Russell Clark on the steps in Dover, Delaware, and other images can be seen on the website of the National Museum of the American Indian. And then I give the link, americanindian.si.edu. Now we have James Weber. James Weber is a Delaware Lenape whose name was Witapanohwe. Witapanohwe meant walks with daylight. He was a known informant and companion on Delaware Lenape culture shared with Gladys Tantaquidgeon. She claimed herself that the origins of the Nanticoke and the Mohegan came from the Old Munsee Wolf Clan. Past political climate for Native American Indians. About the 1830s existed the Indian Removal Act. Wolf Clan members stayed behind despite the threats of forced removals. Natives not removed were the Nanticoke school founders Emily Johnson Wright, known as Emily Caroline Johnson, and David Wright, known as David W. Wright, in 1881, and a state such as Delaware that claimed there were no natives. How were they able to create a school? The Nanticoke Indian Association. What was the political climate? So these were the things that I was asking Karelle. And then we went over some other subjects and topics, such as African Americans in the 1800s. Did they have the ability to create their own schools? Indian Mission School. And then we talked about the Nanticoke Indian Center. We also discussed the Dutch, the Swedes, and the English settlers of Delaware, and the importance of Nanticoke schools so that the generations after remember who they are. It's also about culture and identity preservation and whose stories get told more, whites and blacks. Natives in our stories has always been around, just the platforms were always highlighting white European and black African lives. Growing up being told not to tell people you were native, fears of forced removals, and then also within the communities they still maintain family names that kept the Nanticoke legacy going, and so that's why I've written here family names that kept the Nanticoke legacy going, that Gladys was around, Wright, Johnson, Harmon, etc. The etc. means there are a lot more names, so I just put that. Then we have 1830s. Any unschooled or non-church going Indian was forced out west. And then we have the Indian Mission Church, similarities of the Mohegan, and similar ways of Wolf Clan activities. Now, as you know, I, the host, Latonian, and I'm not a Christian, but many of my family members are. So this just goes into to that. So we have Ajipkut Karelle, which is her native name, Ajipkut. She did her research and came across the Nanticoke language, being from the Millsboro community as a tribal member of the Nanticoke Indian Association. My channel, Nanticoke Language, was promoting the language in a way that was not done before. Sounds of the language was being taught and how to read the texts. The channel was a surprise because no one has ever heard of me before. It was good to see someone else out there doing things similar to what she was doing all those years. She wanted to learn the differences between Wanami, and Nanticoke. And then I describe my language video of me, Latonian, and Yankee, Maya Chalon, also Bekwinont, on March 31st, 2018. So this is us for Wikitongues, and I had that video once placed on private, and now I brought it back to public in 2025. So that was for the nonprofit Wikitongues. The Nanticoke communities, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, I'm sure there's more. Interclan marriage is acceptable only by marrying different species. There are wolves of different species, gray, red, and eastern wolf. So long as you are not marrying the same exact species, you can marry from the same clan. All wolf clans are related, but intermarriage is not acceptable unless it is across species. This information was found in Medicine Trail. The reason why I mention it is because it explains all these different types of wolf clans on the east and how we were interrelated. Not the same, but interrelated. We have Muncie Wolf Clan links, the Pequot, Mohegan, which comes from the Lenape Wolf Clan. And then you have other shared features of the Wolf Clan, among women at least, were corn, mortar, and pestle. And then Karelle herself had taken notice that she's often seen that within the communities. I also recalled seeing similar things in my own maternal grandmother's home. Prior, I didn't mention her name in my last PDF, but this one, yes, Janice Elaine Pitts, Dunson the lease. And then in closing, once spoken, it can't be unspoken. So you'll see that slogan with Karelle a lot, also with Keith Cunningham and others, but mostly with Karelle. So once spoken, it can't be unspoken. As the discussions on the similarities between herself and Gladys was coming to an end, I had asked Karelle to disclose a little more about what she does in the Nanticoke community in Millsboro, Delaware. She briefly covers her activities of language revitalization, helping the tribe to ratify their constitution. She studies native law, and she still dances her jingle dress style at powwows. Now, mind you, that was 2021, so I'm sure all of her information has drastically made changes. As we get older, we do different stuff. So that's why I gave us an update on Karelle. September 26, 2025, the update on Karelle. A great teacher is one who can guide you towards many ways of learning the same thing. The goal is to speak and to understand each other. Whether an individual learns from her or myself, we should be able to communicate and understand each other. Latonian Jasmine Dunson, Yolpik Kwashalsitskwe, Administrator of Nanticoke Heritage and Lenape Language Nest 2025. So, in context, it's no longer Nanticoke Taiwan language. Now it's just Nanticoke Heritage and Lenape Language Nest. Okay, so let's see. Karelle graduated from Rutgers University in the summer of 2025 and earned her new title of doctor in her field. She previously was a Dartmouth student prior. She completed her language book and launched the website in 2025, backed by Sterling Street. She also is into her side project involving grassroots nonprofit organization for farming and agriculture known as Native Roots Farm Foundation. Additionally, her language book can be found at this link, www.nanticokelanguage.org. Our personal communication is sparse, as she is upon many activities. The last time I supported her was for what I loved wearing, beaded earrings. In the image of me below, I am wearing custom-made earrings of Baby Yoda. And of course, this promotion is another support for her achieving her goals from just Karelle to Dr. Karelle. With intentions, this is all that I know, Latonian. So you see me, Latonian, Tony, Tony, wearing custom-made Baby Yoda earrings in January of 2025, made by Dr. Karelle A. Hall. So this is the Nanticoke language teacher, Karelle, Dr. Karelle, and you see her in her cap and gown, beaded earrings, and the color purple. So yes, once again, Dr. Karelle A. Hall, native name Ojibkatskoy. And then this is one of the screenshots I took because I did watch her graduation. So Karelle Aida Hall in her field of anthropology. You can see her at the Rutgers ceremony for graduates. I could probably make this a little smaller. Yeah, that's her. Okay, we have reached the end. So this is me, the group administrator, and this is all the different versions of how my name is seen out there in the universe. We have L. Jasmine Dunson, Latonian Jasmine Dunson, Latonian J. Dunson, Latonian Dunson, L. Dunson, Latonian D. These are all the versions of my name. My native name, Yopit Kusavsitskoy. Latonian opened up her language group on March 23rd, 2025 on Facebook. Other language outlets are her YouTube channels like The Silence of the Light and Latonian Jasmine Dunson, Human Woman. Nanticoke Language channel was discontinued in 2022. I mentioned it before, it was due to personal reasons. And I will just say I left the internet for some time. I was just done with it. I just left. So it had nothing to do with Karelle or anybody from my, to my knowledge, from my own nation. So note, she also invited other language teachers and students to the group with Nanticoke heritage or not. And then my introduction. So Latonian is expressing her love for her heritages, Nanticoke paternal, and Nanticoke Lenape, Ramapo maternal with language. It has always been her thing. She once created a language nest called Nanticoke Language with the focus on Nanticoke language revival. And she craves a space to just speak naturally again. She's always been about real speaking and creating. Her Native American ancestral heritage surnames are Wright, Harmon, Johnson, Morris, Miller, Clark, Pitts, Carney, Norwood, Sockham, Street, Webster, and others. Her full legal birth name is Latonian Jasmine Dunson. It was not put on the genealogy website. Only her first and last name, Latonian Dunson, and the Nanticoke tribe, my paternal tribe, was made aware that her middle name was missing with the Social Security card demonstration. You know, see, this is my birth name, and yeah, so Latonian Dunson, that's just my first and last name. Please put my middle name. So then we have my update. So the tribal enrollment plans. I have my application status pending with the Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware. In the past, I did fill out application for the Nanticoke Tribe in Millsboro, but I never turned that in. I didn't know my mother's side too well. But now that I have a lot of information from mother's side, I just decided, since I'm in Cheswold, and I'm very close to the Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware, so it's more of a convenience thing for me, and as well, I'm also related to this community as well, so it makes more sense for me at this time. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Again, today is September 30, 2025, and I had to redo this video. Also, pardon my English. Sometimes when I read for a long time, different sounds come out. This is good choppy. But anyway, thank you for listening, and take care. Bye.